Hello everyone, welcome to another video about boutique Blu-rays. Today I'm going to be returning to a very recent label that recently started up, Imprint, out of Australia. They have sent me their second wave of releases, so I have all 5 of the films from their second wave of Blu-rays. I'm very aware that because Imprint is an Australian company, for people outside of Australia it can be quite expensive to buy these, even though they're region free, so you can play these in players from all around the world. They can be expensive to buy and then to import when you factor in shipping costs and customs, etc. But for my Australian audience and for anyone else who has the cash to import these, hopefully you can take some of these as recommendations for what to buy, because I think Imprint is a truly great label and I think they're doing brilliant things. First up, and this is spy number 6 in the Imprint Films collection, it's When Worlds Collide. This is from 1951 and this is kind of a classic sci-fi movie. Very much a 1950s sci-fi movie, so don't expect mind-blowing effects or anything like that. As with all of the early editions of Imprint movies, they come with these slip covers. So if I take this outside of the slip cover, it has a different cover artwork inside. So if you want to get these slip covers, be very quick because these are limited to the first few thousand copies. It's a 1080p presentation from a 4K scan of the 35mm negative. Now, it's a 4K scan, but I don't believe much restoration work has been done on this at all, because in some parts of the movie there's a lot of colour bleeding, there's some damage and dirt flecks on the screen, so there hasn't really been a restoration job done on here. But in terms of the clarity of the resolution, you can tell it's from a 4K scan. It's just, it would have been nice if there'd been some restoration work done on this print. Now, from what I believe, Imprint just licensed these transfers from other companies. So Imprint aren't doing any restoration work in-house from what I gather. So they're doing the best with what materials they've been given, and I think it's still a perfectly watchable experience. I enjoyed this for what it is. Not my favourite of this second wave, but still great regardless. And in terms of the features, there's an audio commentary, which is brand new, exclusive for Imprint, with film critics Barry Forshaw and Kim Newman. There's a 90 minutes of George Pal extended interviews with a ton of big names like Ray Bradbury, Ray Harryhausen, etc. And then there's a theatrical trailer and a photo gallery. So that is When Worlds Collide, spy number 6. Spy number 7, No Way to Treat a Lady. And this was a complete surprise. I'd never seen this movie before, did not know what to expect, but I saw the cast, Rod Steiger and Lee Remick and George Segal. A brilliant cast, and I'd never even heard of this movie before. But again, this is one of the great things about Imprint, is they're releasing films that haven't been released elsewhere on Blu-ray, meaning that they probably hadn't been on my radar before. Again, I'll show you the inside of the slip cover. So that's the slip cover, but then you get this artwork on the front. The movie itself I found very intriguing because it's about this serial killer, and at the beginning it felt almost a bit like 10 Rillington Place in terms of how dark and sinister it was. But then it goes into places almost a bit campy towards the end, and very much reminiscent of perhaps some giallo movies or a Brian De Palma movie in terms of how theatrical and amped up it gets towards the end. So I greatly enjoyed this movie, and if you haven't heard of it, definitely check out some of the reviews online to see if it's your kind of thing. In terms of the presentation, it's just a 1080p presentation. It looked pretty good. Again, I don't think any recent restoration work had been done on this, but it looked pretty good to my eyes, and I greatly enjoyed watching this on this Blu-ray. Special features wise, there is only an audio commentary, but it is exclusive to this disc, and it's with the brilliant Kat Ellinger, whose commentaries I always find very intriguing, and they grip me throughout the movie. So Like with most of her commentaries, I watch the film and then I watch it again straight after with her commentary. So this is a great release, Spy number 7 from Imprint Films. Spy number 8, and this is probably one of the most anticipated Imprint releases of them all. It's A Place in the Sun. This is the brilliant George Stevens movie with Montgomery Clift, Elizabeth Taylor and Shelley Winters. And what a film. This is such an amazing classic movie that totally stands up today. And I must say that it's absolutely criminal that this hadn't been released on a Blu-ray anywhere in the world before this. So I must imagine that there will be a US release of this at some point, surely. It's just crazy that this hasn't been available. So when I saw that Imprint had announced it, I got so excited. Anyway, inside the slipcover, you do get the different artwork and you've got the disc inside. So again, if you want this, don't delay because they do go very quickly. It says that it's a 1080p presentation of the film from a 4K restoration by Paramount Pictures. Now, this is interesting because I've got to admit that the picture of the film left a bit more to be desired, because when I saw it was a 4K restoration from Paramount, I thought this is going to look amazing. But unfortunately, there are still parts of the film that look rather soft and look like they maybe could be tidied up further. So in terms of picture quality, it looks very good. It just could have looked better, I think. I'll just say that. In terms of special features, there's an audio commentary with George Stevens Jr. and associate producer Ivan Moffat. There's a featurette called George Stevens and His Place in the Sun, and that's with the other filmmakers of the film. There is another great feature as well, which is about other filmmakers who knew George Stevens and they're talking about him. So it's got Warren Beatty, Frank Capra, among others. And it's just great hearing other filmmakers talk about how great George Stevens was. And then on top of that, you got a theatrical trailer and a photo gallery. So it's a great release, a really great release. I just wish the picture quality could have been better, but maybe this is the best it can look. So that's A Place in the Sun. Moving on, we've got number 9 in the Imprint Films collection. It's The Carpetbaggers. This is one that I wasn't familiar with at all, but now I'm very well acquainted with after watching it and listening to the brilliant Kat Ellinger commentary, and then also reading up a bit about the novel that this movie is based on. Now, the novel, when it came out in the 60s, was said to be very provocative in terms of its sex and violence. And so they wanted to bring this to the screen. And apparently, back in the day in the 60s, this movie was seen as very provocative and very sexy and violent. But watching it, 60 years later, it just isn't. It's all very tame. And to be honest, this film, I do not like. I do not like this movie. I just found it quite boring. And George Peppard in particular is such a bad leading man. He's so uncharismatic. Even though his character is meant to be, not the nicest guy around, we never really sympathise with him because he just doesn't have that charisma. And then there's this character moment towards the end of the movie, not spoiling anything, but it's basically explaining why he is the way he is. And it's explained just by saying that certain things happened to him, so this is why he is who he is. And I always think that's terrible character development, because a character should grow based on what they do, not what has been done to them. So anyway, that's my bit of rant about the Carpetbaggers. And let's have a look at the slipcase, and then that's the disc underneath. So again, do not delay because these are going to run out. In terms of the special features and presentation, it's a 1080p presentation on Blu-ray. I'm not sure when the restoration was done because there's a lot of issues with the colour in this film. I found a bit of colour flickering. Again, that won't be an issue down to Imprint because, again, they don't do the restoration work, I believe. I think that's just what they've been provided and it just can't be helped. But the film is perfectly watchable and it does look probably the best it's ever looked because it's not available anywhere else. And you've got an audio commentary, again, like I mentioned, from Kat Ellinger, which is a great commentary. And I actually enjoyed the film much more watching it with her commentary. And on top of that, you got the trailer and the photo gallery. So that is spine number 9, The Carpetbaggers. And number 10, and the last of this second wave of Imprint Films Blu-rays, it is Night Falls on Manhattan. This is directed by Sidney Lumet, starring Andy Garcia, Richard Dreyfuss, Lena Olin, Ian Holm and James Gandolfini, and this has some brilliant performances in. I'm just going to show you the slipcase and what's inside though. So that's the limited slipcase, and that's what the disc looks like if you don't manage to get this. So at the risk of sounding like a broken record, do not delay, because these slipcases will go very quickly. Now about the film, this is a Sidney Lumet film from the 90s, and I think this is an underrated gem in Lumet's catalogue. I'd never seen this one before, but I was actually silently blown away by how good this movie was, and in particular the performances. Ian Holm is really, really great in this movie, and Andy Garcia, who in the past I've not been too keen on as an actor, I actually thought he was really great in Night Falls on Manhattan. The special features and presentation, it's a 1080p presentation on Blu-ray, and it actually looks very good. I think this might be the best looking disc of this second wave of Imprint Films, so I would totally recommend getting this if you're a fan of Lumet and you want a good looking movie. There's an audio commentary with Sidney Lumet himself, which I think was recorded for an older DVD, but is present here on the Blu-ray. And then there's a second commentary with actors Andy Garcia and Ron Liebman, and producers Josh Kramer and Tom Mount. So both of those commentaries I dipped in and out of, and they sounded really good. And there's the trailer and photo gallery. So this is spine number 10 in the Imprint Films catalogue, and perhaps my favourite of the bunch. So there you have it. These are the 5 Imprint Films Blu-rays from their second wave, and I've been thoroughly enjoying the output of this new label, and I want to give them my support wholeheartedly. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching this video about Imprint Films Blu-rays. I want to say a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, as always, my Fellini fanatics. I'll include your names on the screen right now. If you want to check out my Patreon page, you can do, for exclusive videos and to join our private film community. Check out patreon.com/boutique Blu-rays. If you want to stick around on the channel and watch more videos, just click one of the ones that will be recommended to you on screen right now, because I'm sure it'll be amazing. Anyway, until next time, stay well and keep watching great films.